guide, we have the goodwill sandwich approach to solving problems, which I mentioned earlier, and which Rick is going to describe a little bit more because it's his creation, and he's the mastermind behind the goodwill sandwich. In the Green Book, Sam is dealing with a boy in his school who is not a friend, but this boy is harassing him. In the Goodwill Sandwich, he's dealing with a problem with a very good friend, so his approach is different. In the second book, he has to take a stand and speak up for himself and stop the behavior, but he doesn't have a vested interest because he doesn't have a friendship with the boy. And in the third book, good job, Rick. In the third book, Sam learns how to speak up to a person in a position of authority. He learns how to speak up with a teacher, with a principal, with a neighbor, and these are all, of course, hypothetical, made-up cases where he feels he's being unfairly treated. And he learns to speak up in a very respectful yet assertive way. So all the language for those skills and strategies is very clearly laid out in the story, in a story form, but in the back of each book, there's also a guide to help you when you read this book with your children. So I think Rick is going to talk a little bit about the Goodwill Sandwich. It's one of my favorite strategies.
Well, Hetty and I were talking about the fact that a lot of times when people are approached by a person with a problem, the way the person approaches them will make, in the first few seconds, make the person cooperate more or resist more. How many of you have ever had someone approach you with an issue, and the way they approached you made you feel defensive right off the bat? You didn't really feel like helping them solve their problem. They invited you to explain why you said what you said or did what you did, right? One of the things that we talked with the Oxford ambassadors about is if we're going to be influential on our campus, and we're going to be influential with our friends, we have to reinforce the friendship, because friendship is the nature of, or agreement is the nature of friendship. If we disagree too much with our friends, we're not going to be friends anymore, right? So we want to reinforce the importance of the person before we get into the issue at hand. And it doesn't have to be long and drawn out. A lot of times what we would do is just say, start with goodwill. Just an expression of, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you want to work this out with me. If there's a way that we can put ourselves in the other person's position and speak to their concern. I know you're being funny. I know that you were just kidding. I know you were just messing around. It's a way to connect with the person before we give what I call balanced data. Balanced data means that if we're going to talk about the problem, we're also going to talk about the times when there wasn't a problem. Today you did this, and that's not what you usually do. Something's different today. And we're going to end that with the bottom part of the sandwich, which is ending with a thought that we could resolve this in a way that works for both of us. Sam does it with a friend. As you might imagine, the technique works way better when there is a positive relationship to start with. We can reference something good that's happened in the past. There's a few examples up here, as you can see over my shoulder. Can you imagine just having a conversation where you recognize all the good things? Hey, I see that you worked on your room, and I really appreciate that. Goodwill. Now, what's the data that you see? Well, I see the bed's made, the dresser is dusted, but I'm also seeing some plates on the floor. I'm seeing the fact that there's some clothes over here. So what we're saying is just what we see or hear. You notice it's no judgment. I can't believe that you think this was a clean room. Look at those dirty plates. You walk into my bedroom and see plates on the floor? Well, maybe we shouldn't ask that. We just make an observation about what we see or hear. No judgment, but we bring up the fact of the good stuff too. And then we just finish with goodwill. I bet if you're able to take care of that one little piece, everything will be great. So we make it easy to get back into good graces with the person we're having a conversation with. How about this one? This is actually Sam's problem with his friend Lucas in the Goodwill sandwich. You want to do this one?
All right. This is the advice that Sam got from his dad. First of all, his dad asked, "Why do you think Lucas was making fun of your sweater?" And Sam thought about that, and this is what he came up with. So the layer of bread, the Goodwill layer that Sam offered to Lucas was, "Lucas, I know the class likes your jokes." And the data was, it really hurt my feelings when everyone laughed at my sweater during recess. Again, as Rick points out, very balanced data. It's not a judgment. It's just expressing how his action made him feel. And then the Goodwill at the end, is there a way for you to make everyone laugh without making fun of me?
The grown-up version of the Goodwill sandwich always includes both persons' needs at the end. So, from a teacher perspective, maybe we would say to someone whose head was down, "Hey Joe, I see your head's down. Are you okay? Because usually you get right to work." Maybe we find out, "Man, I'm so tired. I had to go to a parent meeting last night. It lasted forever, and I'm just beat." Well, I wonder if there's any way that we could get you to the point where you feel more energized and are able to get your work done. So if we're able to say what would work for both people in the last part of the sandwich, it actually is pretty nice. Somebody says, "Can I stay up later?" Did we do that one in this one?
No.
I don't think we did.
No, this is the
Someone
doctor
says,
here.
"Can I stay up later? There's a show on, there's a new season now, all the new shows are coming on. I want to stay up past my bedtime." You know, I really appreciate the fact that you want to see your show. The fact is, you got to get up at the same time as usual, and the last couple of days I've had a hard time getting you up. Tell you what, why don't we see if we can put it on VCR or DVR or whatever we have at home. See if I can record it for you. That way you'll be able to see your show and get up alert in the morning. So it's sort of problem solving with each person's position in mind. It works with grown-ups too.
Doctor, I really admire your skill, and I've recommended you to a lot of my friends.
Yay, thank you. I really appreciate it.
I think everybody can relate to this. Today, though, my appointment was for 3 o'clock, and it's 4:30 now. I know that doesn't happen here very much, but and the Goodwill, I would appreciate it very much if you could let me know when you're running late, because I know that you can't predict emergencies, but even a call from one of your staff would be helpful. It makes it easy to make a complaint, because otherwise you just get a knot in your stomach and you're rehearsing and it never seems to come out right. But because it's sort of in a formula, it's easy this way.
Well, it sounds easy on paper, you know. I think that if we practice it, it sort of like becomes our template of thought that will guide us in situations where we feel temporary flummoxed. You know, we don't know what to say. I think if we can fall back on something that we practice, or at least a way of thinking about it to gain cooperation, maybe we'll get the results that we like and inspire the other person to come our way a little bit too. Now, listen, some of the things that happen between people, especially between our boys and girls and their friends, we can't always count on the fact that they're happening between friends. The second book of the series talks about social skills, being assertive with people who you're probably not going to be friends with, and you just want them to stop. Here's an example.
Maybe you were just kidding around when you called me a loser, but I didn't take it as a joke. I'm not going to call you names, and I want you to stop calling me names. Now, is there a way we can work this out together?
When we talk with people about this, it takes some practice to put your body language and your facial expressions together with this. Because if you said it sort of, you know, I didn't like it, it's not going to give you the effect that you want. So you have to be strong, but it strengthens you to be able to start out saying, I'm going to give that person something before I ask something back. I'm going to give them a way out, a way to save things. Hold on, Jake. I guess you're going to keep calling me names if that's what you really want to do. But you could also decide to stop and let us have a normal conversation. If you want to treat me with respect, I'll be happy to stay here and talk. The implication being, I've given myself a graceful way out. So many times with people, you know, when we say stand up for yourself, there's an implication that that means using your physical strength. And that just starts the whole cycle going. When you say it's bad advice these days, at least I should say in the States, it's bad advice to give somebody, well, just poke them a good one and they'll quit. Fights are different than they used to be. Down where I live, we had a boy stabbed at Coral Gables High last week in school, died in school, and a knife fight in school. And things don't stay stopped. Have you noticed that? You push somebody, they push you back harder. You push them back, they get two of their friends to knock you down, stomp on you, put you in the hospital, but then it's not over because then you do a drive-by in their house. It's different now. Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. We can't encourage people to do the things that used to work when we were kids. It's too much, it's too risky now. So we want to equip them with stronger skills though. And the hardest stand takes a stand. It's another technique, it's a way of thinking. The first thing is, I'm going to give the person the benefit of the doubt. The second thing is, I'm going to express, oops, that did not.
No,
sorry.
here. Yeah.
Let's back up 1 second. I promise we'll get back. In order to do this, if bullying is really something that's repetitious, then what we want to do is prepare ourselves ahead of time if we think we're going to encounter somebody who's going to give us a hard time. We're going to ask you to help your boys and girls prepare themselves by saying things like this that you see on the screen. I can do this. I deserve to be treated well. I am strong and confident, and I have every right to speak up for myself. And that takes some, it's not what normal people do. You don't deliberately create statements like that out loud or to yourself. We don't think in complete sentences. But with something this important, we have to set the tone first. So we're going to ask you to help them mentally prepare. Okay?
And in Sam Takes a Stand, this whole technique is broken down into a series of steps. So this is the first one, the self-talk, to build up the confidence in order to do this. And the first actual step when you're face-to-face with the person who has been mistreating you is simply hold it. Hold on, wait a minute. That's step number one.
That's strong in itself, because people who are intimidating you don't expect you to do anything different. They're prepared for you to fight back. They're more than capable of hurting you if you try that. But the fact that you're taking charge of conversation equalizes some power to start. Hold it. Stop.
Maybe you were just kidding around. Maybe you don't think this is a big deal. Get the aggressor to stop and listen. And these opening starters are all in the book too. And I would encourage you to practice this at home for yourself, but mostly for your children.
The third part of that is to state your own position. And it's usually followed, it comes after the word but. Maybe you were just kidding around, but I didn't think it was funny. Maybe you don't think this is a big deal, but I do.
Maybe you're just having a bad day, but I don't think it's fair to take it out on me.
We're not going to have people go, oh, wow, I didn't realize you were so strong. I'll never pick on you again. It's not going to happen like that. We just tell people, look, the best that you can do at this point is to save face with a graceful exit. Now, that doesn't mean, you yell a threat or a curse word or anything like that. No, you just leave when you say, I'm done with this conversation. Incidentally, this works with adults as well. I don't know if anybody here has been in a position where you had to take a stand for yourself, but the formula works equally well with grown-ups. If you want to have a normal conversation, that's fine, I'm into it. If not, we're done. Is there something we need to talk about that's making you so angry? Because if you can talk about it without the insults, I'll listen. Otherwise, I'm out of here. It's strong. It's not threatening, but it's strong. It's making your own case.
Another approach too, and this is in the adult guide, it doesn't come up in the 3 books, is but just a one-line response. I was teaching grade 6, and a girl came to me on a fairly regular basis at recess crying because a group of other girls was teasing her about going with a boy in the class. And they were looking for that reaction, that they wanted her to cry, and when she did, they felt that they were successful. And so when she shared this with me one day, I said, well, why don't you try this approach? The next time they come to you and tease you about going with, let's say, Lucas, try saying this to them. Yes, we are going together, and we're talking of getting married someday, and you would be the first that we'd invite to the wedding. She rolled her eyes and said, I can't do that. That's ridiculous. But she did it. And she came to me just grinning from ear to ear on the day that it happened, a few days later, because it was successful. She disarmed them. That's not what they were expecting. They wanted her to cry. They weren't expecting that kind of an assertive response from her. And so there are a lot of other kind of responses that you could practice with your children, and they can come up with many of their own creative ways to speak back when someone is mistreating them verbally.
Can I just throw in here, we don't always know. My son was, I found out 2 years after the fact that he was bullied almost every single day on the bus in 7th grade. Being in this line of work, it made me feel really sad that I had tried to foster good communication with my son, and yet he didn't want to talk with me about that. Some of us in this room may have boys and girls that we believe are strong and are not being targeted at the moment. Can I just ask you to try something? If you're just driving in a car sometime, maybe you could just throw out a hypothetical situation. Hey, what if this happened? What do you think you could say? That might give you an opening, just a hypothetical what if. Having a conversation with my son wasn't easy because he's not a verbal guy. And if you have a son or daughter who's not verbal, they probably will roll their eyes and say, we've done this before, Mom, or, we've done this before, Dad. How many what ifs do we have to do? But it's great preparation for them to be able to hear themselves saying the words. Plus, you'll be able to do some coaching around that issue of tone of voice and body language. You could be able to say, that was strong when you said hold it. It would even be stronger if you said hold it. Try it and get them to do it. It's kind of crazy. It's almost like acting. But you know what? All those little sub-skills are things that people practice when they don't need them, so they don't have to think about it when they do. It becomes your first response. And it doesn't happen if we don't practice. So even if your son or daughter is doing well, not giving any indications, just try out a few hypothetical things with them and see what they might say.
Do you want to finish up by saying one?
Oh, yeah.
About this last book? Because it's time. Right?
Yeah. Okay, this is top secret parent information now. I mean, this is stuff. In this book, Sam actually builds on some of the skills that he used in the first two in terms of self-talk and preparation. But we talk